So for our group project, we did the first assemblage, which is how do people construct and maintain identity in Rift or Order and Chaos or the other game you've chosen. So our other game that we did also evaluate is World of Warcraft. First and foremost, identity. So identity within massively multiplayer online games is, or like role-playing games, is created by the player, but it is usually maintained by the avatars they associate with. It's true for human nature to gravitate towards others that remind us of ourselves, and this isn't an exception in MMORPGs, but it can be represented differently. So interestingly, the collected data showed that most of the time players fell into one of two categories. Those that have many, if not all, physical characteristics in common with their avatar, or those that have very few or no physical characteristics in common with their avatar. This means that many people identify with others in a more true sense than they would in the physical world, and avatars are created based off of how we view our inner selves. So although human nature is inevitable, the resulting identity is a more accurate representation of oneself. So in one image on the slide, which is the first slide, it shows a group of avatars that share very similar characteristics and traits. We have a second image as well that shows diversity between avatars. But what we found to be true for most ads and representations of what an MMORPG can offer isn't necessarily what is accurate to every player's experience. So of course they're going to represent all the different identities that you can assume if you decide to play, but that's not necessarily the realistic quota. And so there is this one very pertinent quote from one of our readings. It's the reading by Wang and Mainwaring, authors of Ethnography at Play, an exploratory case study of Chinese users' experience in and around online games. The quote is, "Online games, especially massively multiplayer online games, MMOGs, are usually more akin to real world than traditional desktop games because they are designed to be sophisticated worlds which encourage interactions among players." And so moving forward, let's see, there is actually kind of a rationale, there is a rationale in how we create our virtual identities. Our group observed, and we actually created a pie graph based off of the data that we each culled. So about 2/3 of our group created avatars that were similar to our real life representations, and then 33.3% of our group created avatars that are different than their real life. And so the graphic on the slide shows one of our members' avatars in Order of Chaos, Chaos 2. He wanted to create an avatar that was completely different than what he looks like in real life, and I think he accomplished that. So creating avatars similar to our physical selves, we had two group members that based their avatars similar to their own physical self. One member who played World of Warcraft based her character on her physical characteristics in the real world. She wrote about how she chose to be human in the game because even if she was given the option to be magical or supernatural now in life, she would always stay grounded in humanity. She also chose to be human because they were described as being very resilient, which is a characteristic that she identifies with. She also chose skin tone, eyes, and hair based on what she looks like in the real world. Some of our other group members created avatars different than their physical self. We had one group member who created an avatar that was completely different than their physical self. The group member played Order and Chaos 2. He wanted to build an avatar that looked completely different than what he looked like in real life. He saw the digital world as an opportunity for him to create physical attributes that are impossible for him in the real world. So he chose the Mendal race, which is a race that is very small in stature. He also chose to be a female mage with purple hair. He thought that building an avatar that is very different and magical would be more interesting than playing an avatar who has similar characteristics in real life. These two perspectives are different because they approach the game differently. One perspective is about playing the game as an extension of their physical self. Another perspective sees playing these video games as an opportunity to play someone different than who they are in real life, which are both value aspects of forming identity. On the next slide, this is a map of Azeroth from World of Warcraft. It also represents a aspect of identity, which is geographic identity, that plays a part in identity construction for players in MMORPGs. For instance, players in Worldcraft start out in realms relating to their race that they chose. The next slide talks about identity pertaining to others. There is an appeal to MMORPGs because you're able to interact with people from all over the world while navigating not only a whole new world, but also a different identity. A portion of a player's identity is concreted according to who he is relative to others. Will they be allies? Will they be enemies? What does your race say about you? What does your class say about you? Identity also helps build an aspect of trust depending on what common ground is found. First impressions in MMORPGs still exist. It's something that we do in real life too. We classify others and then we determine whether or not they are worth our time or they are going to be a person of conflict. So in World of Warcraft, players start out in different realms depending on their race. From the beginning, there is a sense of belonging and origin before players strike out on their own to explore the rest of Azeroth. Players group together in order to complete tasks and failures are not seen negatively, but rather used as encouragement towards improving and progressing. This was said by Chen in his 2009 article on World of Warcraft. In Order and Chaos, it appears that players are on missions to complete quests and must interact with individuals who can help them along or cause conflict, which can inhibit their forward progress. The next slide shows two photos that are actually photos of people playing together in real life on World of Warcraft. So it isn't just people meeting online and playing together to form teams. People also meet up in person and play alongside each other as well. Both are seen to equally codify bonds and territories. And so that's it. Thank you.